We grow up surrounded by ideas of what we are supposed to need, things to have, do, or keep up with. For a long time, I didn't question that much. It just felt normal, like this is what everyone does. But the more I paid attention, the more I noticed that a lot of those essentials weren't actually helping me. They were not needs at all. In fact, many of them were keeping me stuck, distracted, and further from the kind of life I want. So in this video, I want to share 7 things I say no to and how dropping them has made my life a lot simpler and lighter. The first one is the need to escape stillness. In our modern world, almost every moment gets filled with something. When we are waiting in line, the phone comes out. When we are walking outside, it often means being in a completely different world with an audiobook or loud music. When we are lying in bed, Netflix runs until we fall asleep. It is so normal we barely notice it anymore. And it makes us feel that if we are feeling bored, something must be wrong. Fun is seen as better than quiet. Entertainment is seen as better than simple. Here in Finland, there's even a streaming service with the slogan, never a boring moment. I let out a deep sigh of disappointment every time I see or hear that, because it says out loud what our culture already keeps telling us, that boredom must be avoided at all costs. But constant input doesn't make life richer. It makes it worse, in my opinion. I've noticed how overstimulation leaves me unsatisfied with basically everything, even things that I usually enjoy. My focus gets weaker, my patience gets shorter, and simple moments feel like nothing. So these days, I often choose the opposite. I run without any music or any podcasts. If I feel overstimulated, I give myself basically zero input, not even reading, like nothing, just being. That's where you gain actual freedom, being okay in your own company, not needing anything, letting moments be ordinary again. If you ever struggle with this, a good question to ask yourself is, what am I actually afraid to feel in silence? What am I escaping? Most of the time, there's nothing really to be afraid of. It's not any rational fear. It's just a habit, like you're so used to being stimulated all the time that you don't even realize it. And if you always avoid stillness, the habit only gets stronger and problems increase. In the long run, it's the stillness itself that helps you stay well, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable sometimes. The second one is the need to know everything. These days, it feels like it's not enough to live your own life. You're also expected to stay updated on the news, on social media, on whatever people are talking about, politics, world events, celebrity drama, the latest lifestyle trends. To have an opinion, to have an answer, to know what is going on at all times. But what keeping up with this cycle really creates is anxiety and overstimulation. The news cycle is designed to make things feel urgent even when they really are not. And when 90% of headlines are negative, your view of the world starts to reflect that. You begin to feel like everything is bad, nothing is improving, and there is no space left for hope. That constant input doesn't actually make you any wiser. It just makes you more distracted. I have noticed in myself that the less I know, the better I feel. I'm still paying attention where it counts, but I have stopped filling my mind with what I cannot influence. If something affects me directly or if it impacts people around me in a way I can help, then yes, I want to know. But everything else is just extra weight I don't need to carry. So I've been trying to ask myself better questions, like, does knowing this change my choices? Is this knowledge or just noise? And I believe that most of the value in conversations doesn't come from proving how much you know anyway. It comes from listening, from asking questions instead of jumping in with your own truth. There's actual freedom in saying, I don't know, or tell me more about that, because you are no longer playing the game of trying to know everything and being right all the time. Number 3, the need to find the enemy. In our culture, almost everything gets framed as a battle, left versus right, winner versus losers, good people versus bad people. If something goes wrong, the first reaction is to look for the bad guy. There has to be someone to blame. You see it in the news, in politics, even in casual conversations. Every story gets shaped into a fight between a hero and a villain. And in daily life, we do the same. Instead of asking, how do we fix this? The focus shifts to who caused it, who needs to be punished. Because that's easier and it sells. Outrage grabs attention. Conflict spreads faster than peace. So we are surrounded by it. Every headline, every trending topic, every online debate becomes about sides. Who is right and who is wrong. And the cost of this mindset is big. Pointing fingers feels like taking action, but nothing actually changes. We lose compassion. We lose the ability to cooperate. We stop seeing people as people and start seeing them as enemies. But if you look closer at the people we are so quick to blame, most of them don't wake up wanting to hurt others. They most likely acted from what they believed was right, shaped by their background, their experiences, their culture. That doesn't, of course, excuse harmful actions, but it does explain why dividing everything into good and bad doesn't actually help the situation. What I have found more useful is shifting the focus. Instead of asking who's at fault, asking what's the problem and how can we solve it. So curiosity instead of judgment. Noticing when there is the urge to pick a side and pausing before reacting. Reading a perspective or listening to a perspective I would normally avoid just to understand why someone might think that way. Suddenly the world feels less black and white and more human. Because yes, people make mistakes, we all do, but turning everything into a fight only keeps this cycle alive. In my opinion, the world that we are living in needs fewer battles and more people willing to heal and willing to rebuild. The next one is the need to focus on looks, not feelings. We spend so much time managing how we come across. Walking into a room, joining a meeting, even in small conversations, there's this big focus on presentation. Not just on clothes or style, but the whole image. Like, how do I look here? Do I seem confident enough? Interesting enough, like I belong here? The problem is when all your energy goes to outside, the inside gets ignored. You might look very put together in some event or party, maybe even get some compliments, but if you are not enjoying yourself, then what's the point? It's like spending hours to put on a perfect performance, but missing the experience itself. A question that has really shifted this for me is, what is the primary feeling I want to bring to this situation? And what is the primary feeling I want to get from this situation? This turns my focus inward when it actually matters. It also changes how I see other people. Instead of worrying how I look in their eyes, I think about the energy I want to bring, because people don't really remember how you looked to them. They remember how they felt with you. And when I am in that event or party, focusing on the feeling I want to get makes me ask, what do I now need to do to generate that? And suddenly, the experience takes the priority. The moment becomes less about proving yourself or myself and more about just being you. 5. The need to prove you have lived. It's easy to slip into this feeling that life only counts if there is proof, like big trips, bucket lists, achievements you can tick off, and of course, photos and videos to back it all up. It's almost as if you didn't post about it, it didn't really happen. The problem is that documenting so often takes over experiencing. You find yourself reaching for the phone before you have even felt the moment, because everyone else is showing their big life and you are afraid that you are appearing small compared to them. That pressure can make you restless, always chasing the next thing to show, always worried about whether you have done now enough, whether you have documented enough. I used to feel that back when I had Instagram, but what gets lost is the joy of moments that don't need a camera, like sitting with someone, laughing at something no one else will ever see. Those are often the things that matter most, even if they never get shared. I actually often dislike filming or taking pictures when I am with people because it pulls me out of the moment. I want to be there with them, not behind a camera. The irony is that my career, it depends on documenting my life. So the more I film, the better the content. But I'm happy that I have now found a balance to this. When I am alone, I let filming happen naturally. If I notice something beautiful on a walk or a quiet moment at home, I'll pick up the camera. That's how many of the shots in my videos are made. But when I'm with others, I would rather stay present. For me, that is how I keep the joy in what I do. Living a life that feels meaningful, even if no one ever sees it, and being happy to share the moments that naturally get captured along the way. 6. The need to be safe from struggle. Our modern life in the 21st century is built around the idea that things should always be comfortable, convenient, and easy. We have ads, products, and even whole industries that are designed to remove any sort of discomfort. We reach for delivery food instead of cooking, take the car for short distances instead of walking, use apps for things that used to require a little effort. None of these are bad on their own, but they feed into this bigger belief that struggle is something to avoid at all costs. You need to work smarter, not harder. And while efficiency, of course, has its place, it teaches us to fear anything that feels heavy, painful, or uncertain. The trap is that escaping struggle often creates bigger ones later. Choosing convenience over health, for example, makes your body weaker. Avoiding hard conversations damages relationships. Running away from challenges in work or personal life usually makes them grow, not disappear. As a minimalist, for example, I have had to ask myself often, what am I willing to sacrifice? Because in life you always have to give something up. I have said no to certain experiences or luxuries, but in exchange, I have gotten peace of mind. I have sacrificed having unlimited clothing options, but in exchange, I have gained easier decision making. Even in relationships, you sacrifice some independence, some comfort in order to build connection. If you cannot accept any struggle, you end up just being trapped by it forever. And I'm not saying you need to love pain or chase pain, but stop treating it like the enemy. Next time a challenge comes up, ask yourself, what's the sacrifice here, and is it worth it? That question turns struggle from something to avoid into something you can actually grow through. The need to prove you are different. These days we are surrounded by messages that tell us that we should stand out, make your mark, be unforgettable, become extraordinary. Society glamorizes these people who rise above the rest, like celebrities, the innovators, the ones who get noticed. I think it taps into something very human, like the craving for significance and the fear of being forgotten once you are gone. From childhood, the kids who got the most praise were usually the ones who excelled, who stood out in some way. That early message can then leave us feeling like being just ordinary or normal isn't good enough. But chasing that standard, of course, comes with a cost. You set the bar so high that life starts revolving around proving yourself instead of being yourself. And inside, it builds this constant comparison, constant pressure, and the fear that if you don't achieve something extraordinary, your life will not really matter at all. I used to feel this too when I was growing up, the pressure to become someone. But over time, I realized I don't actually want to be extraordinary. I don't want to spend my life proving I'm different. For me, the actual peace, came when I stopped setting like these specialness as standard. That doesn't mean that I have given up on growth or any meaningful goals in my life. It just means that I'm shifting the focus from recognition by other people to alignment, living in a way that feels true, not impressive. And even if that doesn't look unforgettable to others, it's exactly the kind of life I want to live. If this video resonated with you, I'm sure you will like this one as well. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one.